To further hype fans for the upcoming release of Resident Evil 4, Capcom has launched a mini prequel ARG revealing more information about the background story of the game and the mystery of Ashley's kidnapping. The disappearance of the president's daughter, who is code-named Baby Eagle, is at the core of the plot of Resident Evil 4, but little information about her kidnapping was available before the release of this new prequel ARG. Resident Evil 4 is a remake of the 2005's eponymous GameCube game, one of the most popular entries in Capcom's survival horror series. This remake keeps the same story as its predecessor, following the adventures of Agent Leon S. Kennedy as he tries to save Ashley Graham, the daughter of the President of the United States who was kidnapped by a strange cult in a remote Spanish village. To provide further information about the backstory of Resident Evil 4, Capcom launched an ARG website where players have to investigate Ashley's kidnapping. This text-based game looks like a secure portal where special agents share their findings regarding the disappearance of the daughter of the President of the United States, including top-secret evidence showing the car accident leading to her kidnapping. To keep players on their toes until the release of Resident Evil 4 on March 24th, this prequel minigame will possibly provide new information on a daily basis as the website's URL reads, Day 1, meaning that more content may be released in the days leading to the launch of Resident Evil 4. This Resident Evil 4 prequel minigame sheds more light on Ashley's backstory and the reason why Leon S. Kennedy ends up looking for her in Spain. According to Capcom, Ashley will be more capable in the Resident Evil 4 remake than she was in the original game, with changes to her gameplay making her feel less like a burden during the various escort missions when Leon needs to protect her from the Los Illuminados cult members chasing them. So, I'm gonna take in all the information from this website before playing the remake. Players can have a taste of the remade survival horror experience as Resident Evil 4 Remake has just released a demo titled Chainsaw Demo. Ever since the game was first announced, players have been wanting to see if the Resident Evil 4 experience they remember from years ago will still be the same, with only videos to showcase what the game would be like. Since the last showing of Resident Evil 4 Remake told of a special demo coming soon, many awaited the news of its release. Thankfully, we will have to wait no longer. In the past, Capcom has been well known for releasing demos for past Resident Evil games. The most famous of its demos was for Resident Evil 7, a teaser titled Beginning Hour, which was a demo that would change as the release date closed in. However, as time went on, and Capcom released demos for the next few games in the series, it made them available for a limited time and even put strict time limits on gameplay. This was a practice that fans did not appreciate, with some even looking for ways to reset the Resident Evil Village demo on PC. After the backlash, Capcom didn't attempt this method for the next few demos, including the Monster Hunter Stories 2 demo. During the latest Capcom Spotlight, Capcom released a demo for the upcoming Resident Evil 4 Remake for all systems. The demo, called Chainsaw Demo, seems to involve several scenes many Resident Evil 4 players know of, like the fight in the main village where Leon Kennedy encounters the Chainsaw Man enemy for the first time. The video announcing the demo also shows off some of the newer mechanics available for players to try out, such as the already shown knife parries. Alongside this news, the trailer also states that this demo will have no time limit on playtime, allowing players to play the demo as many times as they like. There is also no statement on how long players will be able to play the demo, so it seems this demo will at least be available until the game's release, unlike the Resident Evil Village demos that had specific times for availability. The recently released Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw Demo has a secret weapon that will make life a lot easier for players who are struggling against the hordes of enemies wandering around the ill-fated and unnamed village. Many consider Resident Evil 4 among the greatest games in the series, so expectations are high for the remake. Impressions to the Chainsaw Demo are encouraging thus far, but perhaps the more squeamish gamers who are curious and have not yet played it will be emboldened by this new discovery. The Resident Evil 4 Remake is one of the most anticipated games of 2023 and has already been spotted in the wild, making the 2 weeks leading up to its release on March 24th an exercise in avoiding Resident Evil 4 Remake spoilers for those who wish to experience it firsthand. It is unknown whether this secret from the demo will appear in the game. This hasn't stopped players from picking apart the Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw Demo for all it's worth. It has been discovered that there is a TMP, a lightweight submachine gun, hidden in the depths of a secluded well found in the village area of the game. It comes with an ample supply of ammunition, making the climactic encounter with the Chainsaw Man a breeze. There is also a kitchen knife hidden in the same area. If you want a scarier experience rather than an easier one, modders have gotten the Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw demo working in VR. There is a locked drawer in the village area of the Resident Evil 4 demo that nobody has been able to open. It could simply be that the key required to open it is found later on in the game beyond the end of the Chainsaw demo, but there is a small yet exciting possibility that the key is hidden somewhere just waiting to be discovered by a persistent gamer. Another possibility is that it will be opened via a lockpicking mechanic a la Resident Evil Village, but that's just speculation at this time. The community seems to be having a great deal of fun with the demo, which is free to play and infinitely replayable without any time restrictions, so it is likely that more secrets will surface in the coming days. Perhaps there are more hidden weapons and Easter eggs for players to discover, only time will tell. The intro village sequence in the original Resident Evil 4 is one of the most iconic moments in any horror game, and Capcom is, of course, bringing it back in high fidelity thanks to the upcoming remake of the fourth mainline RE game. The title is set to launch in just a couple of weeks, but to whet fans' appetite for the terrifying third-person shooter, a demo has been released that gives players a chance to experience the village scene all over again to face off against one of the more well-known enemies, the Chainsaw Man, as well as a bunch of other infected baddies. For those that would like to check out a slice of the Resident Evil 4 remake before it comes out, a downloadable demo is now live on all the major digital storefronts, like the PSN Store, Xbox Live, and Steam. For anyone trying to download the demo directly through a console, giving the store a quick search for Resident Evil 4 or Chainsaw Demo should show the proper results. The demo comes in at about 11 to 12 gigabytes, so Resident Evil fans should make sure they have enough space for the demo installation. I played the demo and finished it in about 19 minutes. While a ton of enemies will appear once players get to the village, the whole encounter is set on a timer. It may seem impossible to fight off everyone, including the chainsaw guy, but as long as players survive for a few minutes, they'll clear the demo. For anyone struggling to finish it without dying, make sure to search around the homes and other areas to find ammo, herbs, for healing, grenades, and more. Players can go into their storage while the game is paused, making it easy to craft items and just take a breather. While Capcom already put out a mini prequel game for the Resident Evil 4 remake in the form of an ARG, this demo is sure to allow players to experience what's new and what's improved in the remake of the critically acclaimed survival horror game just before it releases. While many fans have been eagerly anticipating the Resident Evil 4 remake, with every new look at the game revealing its intention to honor the original game while also introducing new mechanics to the series. A gameplay video published by Game Informer last month raised some discussion surrounding the game's implementation of its rain effect, which many claimed looked rather unflattering. Speaking to Press Start during a preview event, Capcom confirmed that it will be adjusting the game's rain visuals in a Day 1 patch for Resident Evil 4. This is a relief as concerns surrounding Resident Evil 4's noisy rain effects began to grow more approaching the game's release later this month. The effect was compared to the intrusive implementation of rain in Rockstar's original release of Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the definitive edition, which many claimed made the games almost unplayable at launch with how much it cluttered the screen during gameplay. Due to this being part of the game's Day 1 update, some players, such as reviewers for the game, will likely still experience this effect during gameplay. However, the majority of players will be able to enjoy the game without any obnoxious rain making it hard to defeat Ganados. This is another example of Capcom's drive for quality with its modern AAA output, and its attention to fans' criticisms of its work both before and after launch. Here's hoping this is just a sign of the level of polish that the Resident Evil 4 remake will be displaying when it releases. Can't wait for the release and the PlayStation VR 2 mode to come out. The Starfield release date is officially September 6, 2023. Bethesda first announced Starfield back in 2018, so fans have been waiting quite a long time to play the company's ambitious open-world sci-fi RPG. It was originally pegged for a late 2022 release before getting pushed back to the first half of 2023, but now Starfield's release date has been delayed yet again. Last year, Microsoft and Bethesda hosted a special event where they gave fans a deep dive into Starfield gameplay. At the event, it was said that Starfield would be out in the first half of 2023. Rumors have been swirling that Starfield wasn't going to meet this release window, and now those rumors have been verified. With the Starfield release date now set for September 6th instead of the first half of 2023, some fans may be wondering why the game was delayed. Unfortunately, no specific reason for Starfield's latest release date delay has been announced, but fans can assume that it involves polishing the game and making sure it lives up to expectations. The added few months of development time could go a long way in ensuring Starfield launches in a much stronger state than it would have otherwise. In the same video where the Starfield release date was announced, Bethesda's Todd Howard also confirmed the date for a special Starfield Direct presentation. Those looking forward to Starfield can tune in on June 11th to see more Starfield gameplay videos and learn about what exactly the game has to offer. Starfield is easily one of the most highly anticipated games coming this year as a landmark science fiction RPG from Bethesda. Early comparisons between Starfield and No Man's Sky were made due to how comparable both titles seem, but Starfield still maintains Bethesda's traditional shooter action from Fallout. Likewise, comprehensive ship customization and real-time flight mechanics are welcome additions to the traditional Bethesda RPG formula, and therefore it is likely that open-world exploration will be its main allure. Bethesda released Skyrim on November 11, 2011, and Fallout 4 on November 10, 2015, respectively, establishing that month and date as a standard release window for the studio. Starfield was initially scheduled for release on November 11, 2022, which would have been the 11th anniversary of Skyrim's release. This created a sense of nostalgia and respect for the initially scheduled release, especially with Starfield being the first brand new IP for Bethesda and marketed as a unique game that has been long in the making. However, when Starfield was shown at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase in June 2022, the reception to the gameplay footage was mixed. Many quickly pointed out its similarities to No Man's Sky, as well as frame rate drops, lags, and limited/average combat. Because of this, delaying Starfield until the first half of 2023 made sense to allow more time to polish the game. More so, Bethesda announced early in 2023 that a Starfield showcase would be coming soon to highlight the fun further. With the game now coming September 6, 2023, the date itself seems odd as it falls outside the release window previously established and doesn't seem to line up with any other significant anniversary or reflective elements for previous titles. Under Bethesda, there are positive and negative considerations about this release date, with one negative being that it could share an intimate release window with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. One substantial positive to consider about Starfield's September launch is that it will not catch itself competing with other high-profile releases in the summer. May is currently scheduled to launch The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Then, June includes launches for Street Fighter VI, Diablo 4, and Final Fantasy XVI. July is sort of a gray area with few notable AAA games scheduled to release, but August follows it up with Sea of Stars, Lies of P, and Baldur's Gate 3. Many more games release throughout the summer as well, but these picks demonstrate how huge of a summer 2023 will be for gaming without the likes of Starfield involved, especially if it was believed to launch in June with Capcom, Blizzard, and Square Enix's heavyweight franchises. It is unknown if June was Starfield's intended release window before it pushed to September, or if more time is needed to polish the game and September happened to be more sustainable. Regardless, September might not be the safe haven that Bethesda hopes it is, with one of the most highly anticipated games of 2023 presently confirmed to release sometime this fall as well. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 has not narrowed down its release window past fall yet, but there is a sign pointing to when fans could potentially expect it to launch. Marvel's Spider-Man released on September 7, 2018, and if that was deemed an appropriate release window for Insomniac, then the developer may want to double down on it again with the sequel. Putting it out on the same date would be a surprise, but releasing in September at all would now pit Marvel's Spider-Man 2 against Starfield. These two games could not be more different from a gameplay or genre standpoint, but any time a AAA game releases near another, there is always the possibility that one will dwarf the other. It would seem like the game that releases sooner has more of an opportunity to thrive since more undivided time is left to play it before its competition comes out, however. In the case of Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring, the latter games seem to eclipse the former entirely. Fans may have to wait a few months to find out when Insomniac plans to release Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for multiple reasons. And if Marvel's Spider-Man 2 releases near Starfield, it will be interesting to see whether that affects their respective sales. Xbox has officially announced that the 2023 Xbox Games Showcase will take place on Sunday, June 11th. While Xbox is not expected to have a presence at this year's E3 event, the company will still be hosting an E3 equivalent show to spotlight its upcoming games. Last year's Xbox Games Showcase focused primarily on games that would be available day one on Game Pass and would launch within the next 12 months. Most of the games highlighted at that event are indeed living up to the promise, though some have slipped to later dates. It's possible the upcoming Xbox Games Showcase will maintain the narrower focus of the previous event, but it's also possible it will be used to announce new Xbox games that are coming later down the line. Regardless, Xbox fans will have to tune in to this year's Xbox Games Showcase on Sunday, June 11th to find out more. A specific time for the event has not been announced just yet, but finer details like that should come to light as we get closer to June 11th. In fact, it's possible Microsoft will announce some of the games that will be shown during the event beforehand, but that remains to be seen. The Xbox Games Showcase date announcement was accompanied by a new trailer for Starfield that confirmed the release date for Bethesda's open-world sci-fi RPG. Despite being part of the games featured in last year's Xbox Games Showcase, Starfield will not release in the first half of 2023 as promised. Instead, Xbox gamers will have to wait until September 6th to play Starfield for themselves. While this is disappointing news for those looking forward to the game, the delay will hopefully result in a better experience than fans would have had if Bethesda rushed it out to meet the deadline. It seems like a safe bet that Starfield will have some kind of presence at the Xbox Games Showcase, but even if it doesn't, fans can look forward to a deep dive on the game happening that very same day. More Starfield gameplay will be shown during the direct event set to take place after the Xbox Games Showcase wraps up on June 11th. It's possible Starfield will get a new hype trailer during the Xbox Games Showcase proper to lead into the Starfield deep dive, but fans will just have to tune in to find out for sure. In an official statement made to IGN, Xbox has confirmed prior reports that it would not be participating in the physical convention side of E3 2023. The statement explicitly clarified that Xbox will not be on the E3 show floor, but also made clear that Xbox isn't splitting from E3 entirely. Still, the lack of Xbox, the last remaining of the big three yet to confirm its participation in E3's show floor, is a huge hit to E3's convention plans for this year. While Xbox won't be part of E3's physical presence, it does have plans to associate with E3's digital efforts. That's not to say those plans will be substantial, however. Xbox says that it will be co-streaming its Xbox Games Showcase on June 11th as part of E3 Digital. Needless to say, a co-stream of an independent event isn't exactly much of a partnership. Still, Xbox hosting its Xbox Games Showcase during the same week as E3 will likely be a big victory for the event. The attention that Xbox draws will filter out to E3's other plans for the week. Even if Xbox never mentions E3 once during its presentation, it will still be tacitly associated with the convention, and the week will be that much more successful as a result. Xbox will benefit from the attention that E3 draws, too. The company needs all the positivity it can get right now due to a frustrating drought of first-party game releases, the delay of Starfield, a tumultuous acquisition process for Activision Blizzard, and PlayStation's continued dominance of the console market. The release date for the upcoming The Wolf Among Us 2 is getting pushed out of 2023, according to a recent announcement from Telltale Games. The sequel to 2013's popular episodic graphic adventure game was originally set to release this year. A delayed release date might not be ideal, but it could potentially mean that The Wolf Among Us 2 will ship as a far more polished version when it eventually hits stores. The past few years have been a rocky period for Telltale Games, especially since the publisher shut down and filed for bankruptcy back in 2018. While a few former employees went on to form their own studio, Telltale Games was revived a year later by LCG Entertainment after it acquired many of the publisher's assets. The studio is continuing to develop its typical attention-grabbing episodic games, such as The Expanse, a Telltale series, and the long-awaited sequel to The Wolf Among Us. Recently, the company announced that Telltale Games secured $8 million in funding for its upcoming games. While this comes as welcome news for gamers, it appears that fans who have been waiting for The Wolf Among Us May 2nd have to hold on a bit longer. Announcing the news in a post, Telltale Games states that the release of The Wolf Among Us 2 will be pushed to next year. The studio mentions that it's determined to tell the ongoing story of Bigby and the Fabletown gang, though the process would require more time. Although a number of points attributed to the decision to delay the game, Telltale Games CEO Jamie Audley says the main reason came down to avoiding crunch. While the game has been in development since 2020, the developer has been actively looking to avoid crunch since the release of the first game, and fans reacted positively when Telltale Games initially announced the Wolf Among Us 2 release window. The latest news of its delay indicates that the developer may be continuing to keep to its promise of avoiding burnout or shipping an unfinished game with the sequel. Interestingly, the studio recently made the choice to switch from Unreal Engine 4 to version 5 for The Wolf Among Us 2. As per the CEO, Unreal Engine 5 offers several interesting features that many at Telltale Games feel are worth the effort in switching to the newer edition. After all, projects ranging from Tekken 8 to CDPR's The Witcher Remake have opted for Unreal Engine 5 over alternatives. But for Telltale, part of that switch means redoing quite a bit of work that was already done in Unreal Engine 4, according to Audley. Focused on narrative adventures, Telltale Games has been keeping an old style of narrative-driven game alive over the years, with other studios like Quantic Dream and Supermassive Games following it and its predecessor LucasArts examples. The original studio sadly filed for bankruptcy in 2018, putting several of its projects in limbo, but was revived a year later by LCG Entertainment. It picked up right where it left off, trying to keep its large back catalog available on storefronts and working on other projects such as The Wolf Among Us 2, a Telltale series, and The Expanse, a Telltale series. Several titles were lost when the first Telltale Games shut down, including a sequel to its Game of Thrones adaptation and an untitled Stranger Things tie-in. It seemed like development was back on track when it came to The Wolf Among Us 2 and The Expanse, both being handled by different development studios and published by LCG rebranded as Telltale. However, while The Expanse may be on track to come out in 2023, The Wolf Among Us will not be joining it. What was once a clear release window has been removed entirely, causing The Wolf Among Us 2's story to look an awful lot like that of Hollow Knight's Silksong. The games began at two very different points, but eventually converged in a strange way. The Wolf Among Us was released in 2013 as an episodic prequel to Bill Willingham's Fables comic book series. Both developers and fans immediately cast their minds toward a sequel, but Telltale was too busy with multiple other projects, including Tales from the Borderlands and Minecraft Story Mode. The idea was shelved for a few years, but a second season was finally confirmed to be on its way at the July 2017 San Diego Comic-Con. The Wolf Among Us 2 was initially set for a 2018 launch, but this was a doomed endeavor. A delay to 2019 was announced in May 2018, and the studio shut down later in September. LCG Entertainment re-announced The Wolf Among Us 2 at the 2019 Game Awards, with a later update revealing that the entire season was being worked on simultaneously. This is where The Wolf Among Us starts crossing over with Hollow Knight Silksong, a title announced in February 2019 to follow up its 2017 predecessor. Unfortunately, neither of the games are headed in a favorable direction. The Wolf Among Us 2 and Hollow Knight Silksong have both been stuck in development since then, largely owing to the same reason. 2020 saw a global pandemic hit, causing major delays throughout the game industry. Wolf Among Us developer Ad Hoc Studio suffered from both the expected pandemic delays and a hiring shortage. Although Hollow Knight's Team Cherry was more compact, its homeland of Australia was hit especially hard by the pandemic, sparking continuous internal delays for Silksong. Hope hasn't died for either game, but there's no light at the end of the tunnel yet. The Wolf Among Us 2 was set for a 2023 release, but as of March 1st, its date was removed, with fans only knowing that it wasn't coming that year. Hollow Knight Silksong made a surprise reappearance at Microsoft's 2022 E3 show, though even with the promise that every game in it would be out within a year, Silksong still has no firm date as of February 2023. The worst part is, each game still has a lot of open questions regarding how they'll actually unfold and a limited number of trailers to answer those questions. Both titles have had very rough development cycles, and hopefully they will soon escape into the waiting hands of fans. Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda is preparing to step down from his position at the Japanese gaming giant, with his replacement already decided. The news of this management shakeup broke out not long after Matsuda penned his second NFT-focused New Year letter in a row, which was something that didn't sit well with many fans. Matsuda, 59, has been at the helm of the Japanese publisher since June 2013, when he took over the company's reins from Yoichi Wada. Over that period, Square Enix's market cap grew by a factor of 6, with the conglomerate currently being valued at the equivalent of nearly $5.5 billion. The industry veterans' continued interest in NFT technologies reflected positively on the company's stock price in recent years, even if it never led to an actual product, nor received acceptance from the fandom. In a newly published investor brief dated March 3, Square Enix revealed that Matsuda intends to step down from his leadership role come summer 2023. The plan is for him to be replaced by Takashi Kiryu, one of the company's current directors. This C-suite shakeup will be discussed at Square Enix's 43rd annual shareholder meeting scheduled to take place across 2 sessions in May and June. Barring anything out of the ordinary, Kiryu is likely to be confirmed as Matsuda's successor during the board meeting taking place immediately after the second shareholder forum. While the transition date has yet to be scheduled, Square Enix's main shareholder meeting historically takes place in late June. The Tokyo-based company attributed this impending managerial change to a general need for reshaping its leadership amid the ever-changing business environment. Looking at the bigger picture, the move might have been at least partially prompted by the fact that Square Enix's 2022 financials revealed declining sales across the board. Kiryu, 48, joined Square Enix in mid-2020 as its chief strategy officer. Prior to that, he had 2 stints at Japanese advertising and PR powerhouse Dentsu, where he initially served as a director for 4 years before taking a brief hiatus to enroll in a prestigious MIT Sloan Fellows MBA program at MIT in 2017. After completing his master's in business administration, he returned to Dentsu in the capacity of a general manager the following year. According to a short employee biography attached to this newly emerged investor notice, Kiryu owns 1,471 shares in Square Enix, which places his personal stake in the conglomerate at around $66,000 as of March 2023. It remains to be seen what kind of leadership changes Kiryu might implement come summer. On a more lighthearted note, there's always a chance that this C-suite shakeup results in another Final Fantasy boss battle with a Square Enix president, seeing how Matsuda already starred in one such set piece not long after taking charge of the Japanese company. Final Fantasy publisher Square Enix has announced that it will move its main offices in Japan to Shibuya. As reported by Siliconera, after the construction of a new building is complete in November 2024, the firm will relocate. Square Enix is currently headquartered in the Tokyo district of Shinjuku. News of the relocation comes days after it was announced that company president Yosuke Matsuda will be stepping down. Some theories suggest that Shibuya is a place that is most influenced by Sony, since the Sony Square exists there, and Square moving there and selling their Western division lately could indicate that they could have merged with Sony. Speaking of Square Enix, Forspoken developer Luminous Productions will soon end its run as a separate studio, according to a statement released earlier today. This news comes just over a month after the release of Forspoken. Luminous Productions started out with the intent to develop AAA game titles that, according to the announcement, were designed to be a fusion of both artistry and technology. That vision culminated in Forspoken's release on January 25, albeit not without several glaring issues that still need to be fixed. Nonetheless, on May 1, 2023, Luminous will cease to exist and will be merging with its parent company Square Enix. The announcement was made on Twitter, with the studio highlighting that its team will otherwise remain as is and will be working on what is being described as new, innovative gaming experiences to players across the globe following the transition. Luminous did confirm, however, that support will continue for Forspoken in the meantime as the studio's main commitment. This includes the upcoming patch that will address many of the technical issues with Forspoken, and the game's DLC, In Tanta We Trust, which is still on the way. Indeed, the fact that the studio has endured its situation with Forspoken up to this point is a testament to a willingness to deliver on promises to improve on its work. Despite the major technical issues with Forspoken that may or may not have contributed to such a decision, the studio is still going to do right by its players by releasing every piece of its planned game content and fixing the problems before the merger is finalized. But at the same time, it is rarely a good thing when a merger, or even an outright shutdown, occurs this soon after a troublesome matter, though it is not clear if what happened with Forspoken is a contributing factor in this particular case. However, the fact that Luminous has mentioned the transition to newer, upcoming efforts suggests a combination of factors, potentially making the support run for the game as short as the developer's existence to the point where the previously announced DLC, upon its release, holds the suggestion that it will be the end of the story of Forspoken. In other words, once the transition is complete, the possibility exists that Square Enix will be moving on from the game despite only having it released just a month prior. This kind of situation is similar to Volition merging with Gearbox after the disappointing launch of Saints Row Reboot, and it's always sad to see the end of an era in conditions such as this. Forspoken released last month and featured on NPD and Japanese gaming sales charts in the lower region, but doesn't chart on Europe's monthly charts. I think it was a critical and commercial failure, as it had high expectations considering the cast, music and writers were all highly paid individuals and the game had a good AAA budget, so it is disappointing in the end. Square Enix has commented on the launch sales of Forspoken during an earnings report, calling its performance lackluster at launch. Forspoken is an action-adventure game made by Luminous Productions, the development team behind Final Fantasy XV, and it came out on PS5 and PC in January 2023 to mixed reviews. The PS5 version of Forspoken currently has a rating of 64 on Metacritic, with the user score far lower at 3.5. Now, publisher Square Enix has commented on the launch sales of Forspoken, giving fans an insight into its market performance in the opening months of 2023. As reported by Video Games Chronicle, Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda has dubbed the sales of Forspoken as lackluster, while claiming to have received positive feedback on the parkour and combat elements of the game. The same report also shares details on the positive qualities of Forspoken's developer Luminous Productions, reiterating that it will be merged with Square Enix beginning May 1, 2023. There could be several different reasons for Forspoken's launch sales being lackluster, and it may be difficult to point the finger at any one event. It should be noted that some fans did list out a few positive aspects, such as the combat and traversal mechanics of Forspoken, but it doesn't seem like it was enough to balance out the shortcomings. In a video online, a number of Forspoken steelbooks had been found in the garbage. While it was not disclosed where precisely the items were found, it is still surprising to see such a new game treated this way. Seeing merchandise such as this show up in disposal bins and dumpsters isn't quite new. In similar news, Funko is disposing of $36 million worth of figurines following lackluster sales in 2022. While that product line seems to be dealing with more volume than Forspoken, the fact that this video game has only been out for a couple of months really doesn't seem like a good sign. While avid collectors place a lot of value on PlayStation 5 steelbooks, the added cost versus the regular packaging of the game could really affect the decision-making when buying items such as these. Understandably, while most steelbook editions include other additional freebies or content, most consumers will tend to focus on purchasing games which they hold to a higher regard. In line with Forspoken's mixed reviews and continuous criticisms, it seems the trend for the game is downward. While it wasn't confirmed whether the steel cases had the discs inside, just seeing them thrown out for disposal does put a more negative light on the game. This also falls in line with recent news of Luminous Productions merging with Square Enix. With such negative results from this project alone, perhaps Square Enix could be pulling the plug on not just the studio, but also the whole project and IP in general. If the game's stock is slow-moving, then the easiest way to dispose of the stock is via a landfill. In the future, there is the possibility that the Star Wars Jedi games could turn into a trilogy. The first game in the series, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, was both received well and sold impressively. So much so that a sequel, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, is in the works, with another game potentially coming after its release. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was released November 15, 2019. Set 5 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 3, the story tells the tale of one Cal Kestis, a Padawan who is hunted down by the Galactic Empire's Imperial Inquisitors while trying to complete his Jedi training. The game was well received, selling 10 million copies by 2020, with a unique spin on the Star Wars game formula. The gameplay took on a more Metroidvania approach, giving Cal more abilities on some planets to make it easier to progress through or explore more of other planets, while its sequel Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be delving into a more open-world style. In an episode of IGN Unfiltered, Ryan McCaffrey sat with Star Wars Jedi Survivor project director Stig Asmussen to talk about the upcoming game, not of Star Wars Jedi Survivor's new combat or traversal features like he's done before, but more of the development of the titles and potential sequels. In the discussion, Asmussen talks about how planning for a sequel happened even before the first game was released. In fact, Asmussen says that he always wanted to see this as a trilogy, and that a third game is possible if the second game does well. There was also discussion about how, if there is going to be a third game, it will be in Unreal Engine 5 instead of Star Wars Jedi Survivor's Unreal Engine 4. About it, Asmussen says that it is a pretty safe assumption. More and more of the industry, and people outside of it recreating some of their favorite parts of games in Unreal Engine 5, are using the new engine to spectacular effect. While a third game for the Star Wars Jedi series would likely be a well-received continuation of the story of Cal Kestis and his friends, it's never a sure thing. As Asmussen said, the second game will have to do well, which can always be an uncertainty in the industry, even if the first game was popular. Recent looks at Star Wars Jedi Survivor's gameplay make it seem like a marked improvement from the first game, so there's plenty of hope that the story of the Jedi series will see a third game. Respawn has unveiled some of the content fans can expect from the upcoming Star Wars Jedi Survivor. With less than a couple of months away from launch, developers have been increasingly sharing more updates and teasers as Respawn looks to build hype around Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was originally meant to launch in March before it was pushed by 6 weeks, with the studio claiming it was taking the time to polish and optimize the game. Since then, Respawn has made an active effort to share details about the game, ranging from its new combat mechanics to gameplay features. As per Respawn, the deluxe edition of the game will include 2 sets of cosmetic packs. Inspired by Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, the cosmetic pack includes skins for Cal Kestis, BD-1, Cal's lightsaber, and blaster. The new cosmetic packs are similar to the earlier announced Star Wars Jedi Survivor Obi-Wan Kenobi cosmetic pack that ships with every pre-order. Of course, the cosmetic packs could potentially mean that players may see the iconic characters in the game in some form, especially considering how Vader was part of Fallen Order. Though time will tell if that will be the case. Respawn looking to put more effort into cosmetics will come as a welcome sign for many gamers. Though perhaps one of the more exciting updates may be the fact that Star Wars Jedi Survivor will include dismemberment. It's a feature that fans have come to expect, though the studio restricted dismemberment in Fallen Order. Now it looks like Respawn may be getting ambitious with the highly anticipated sequel. But the gameplay mechanics and interesting cosmetics are only part of the anticipation for fans. Its overarching story and the larger implications for the lore carry a lot of weight for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Currently, the BAFTA tank that was featured in the trailer is the top contender as one of the most intriguing aspects of the game's story. Though some speculate that players could see more from the sequel, including a rumored Grogu flashback in Star Wars Jedi Survivor and a possible exploration of Palpatine's cloning experiments. Either way, it's shaping up to be an interesting time to be a Star Wars gamer. As to how far Respawn's game will deliver expectations, time will tell. Speaking of EA and Respawn, game developer and creative director at Respawn Entertainment, Ryan Lastimosa, is officially leaving the studio, and EA, the makers of Titanfall and Apex Legends, have been going through a tricky period, with Respawn cutting down some of its projects to put more focus on its Battle Royale and other projects like Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, with the departure of the studio's creative director, the coming months look to be an interesting time for Respawn. Earlier this year, the company scrapped Apex Legends Mobile along with an unannounced Apex Legends single-player game that was rumored to offer deeper connections to Titanfall. This change in direction partly meant that Respawn was doubling down on optimizing Apex Legends in its upcoming seasons. Its efforts already appear to be paying off, as the Battle Royale recorded a new all-time peak player count on Steam with Season 16. An impressive feat considering it's the first season that didn't debut a new character. Tweeting via his personal account, Respawn's creative director Ryan Lastimosa stated that he will be exiting Respawn after serving the studio for 13 years. Over the years, Lastimosa has played a key role in designing some of the most iconic weapons in Apex Legends, such as the highly popular R301, R99, Crabber, and the Longbow. His name is also included in the game as Lastimosa Armory, the fictional in-game production facility these guns were made. Fans might also recall the former creative director's name from Titanfall 2 as the character Captain Lastimosa. Lastimosa's departure comes at a time when EA is reportedly laying off over 200 Apex Legends QA testers. The layoffs are said to be centralized within EA's Baton Rouge team, but EA itself is yet to officially acknowledge the rumored proceedings. Lastimosa leaving Respawn is only going to complicate things for the studio even further, at least for the short term. Despite the news surrounding its internal changes, Respawn isn't short on ambition for its future. Recently, Respawn's Stig Asmussen claimed that a third Star Wars Jedi game could be possible, given that Star Wars Jedi Survivor performs well once it releases next month. The Apex Legends team also seems to share similar enthusiasm, where the game's design director stated that he hopes the Battle Royale will still be played in 20 years. Regardless, it will be interesting to see how Respawn itself will fare over its next phase of projects in the months to come. Hogwarts Legacy had the sixth biggest launch for a video game since the European charts started 6 years ago. The only games ahead of it are FIFA titles. That means Hogwarts Legacy had a bigger launch than every Call of Duty game released since 2017, plus other breakout hits such as Red Dead Redemption 2 and Elden Ring. After just 3 weeks on sale, Hogwarts Legacy is already the 5th best-selling game of the last 12 months, behind FIFA 23, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Elden Ring. Yet despite the runaway success of Warner Bros. Title, game sales in February across Europe are down 10% compared with last February, with 12.9 million games sold. This data is from GSD and includes physical game sales across most major European markets, including the UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy and more. It also includes digital game sales from most major publishers across all European markets. The decline in game sales is due to fewer releases in February than the year before, which saw multiple big new titles including Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Dying Light 2 and Total War Warhammer 3. There was also strong second-month sales for Pokémon Legends Arceus. The next highest-charting new release is war shooter Atomic Heart at number 9. Elsewhere, The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Remastered both jumped up the charts, boosted by the HBO TV series based on the games. In terms of consoles, PS5 saw a huge spike in sales across Europe last month, with sales up 5 times over February last year. The start of last year was extremely slow for PS5, due to severe stock shortages worldwide. The hardware data from GSD covers multiple European markets, but it is missing 2 of the biggest territories, the UK and Germany. I'll cover the UK games market after this. PS5 was comfortably the best-selling console across tracked European markets, with sales more than double Nintendo Switch in second place. Switch sales are down 28% across Europe, mirroring a similar decline in the UK. Nintendo's next big push around Switch is in the second quarter of the year, with activity planned around the new Zelda game and Mario movie. Xbox Series S and X is in number 3 spot across Europe, but Microsoft saw a 13% sales increase compared with February last year. Over in accessories, 1.27 million items were sold across European markets last month, a slight drop of 0.2%. This area has been boosted by the console market, with the PS5 DualSense controller continuing to see strong sales. The UK games market also posted strong sales in February due to the performance of 2 products, Hogwarts Legacy and PlayStation 5. 2.8 million console and PC games were sold across the UK during February, up 11% over the year before. Hogwarts Legacy was by far and away the biggest game of the month. Its launch week was 100% bigger than last February's hit video game, Elden Ring. In fact, the game is already on the brink of overtaking Elden Ring in all-time sales after just 3 weeks. It is currently the 6th best-selling video game from the last 12 months. This month, the highest-charting new releases outside of Hogwarts is undisputed, the boxing game from Playin, which debuts at number 13. Elsewhere, Atomic Heart charted at number 17, although the game was a Day 1 title in Game Pass, which may explain why 85% of its sales were on PS5 and PC. Other new releases that didn't make the top 20 include Octopath Traveler 2, number 58, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, number 78, and Wild Hearts, number 139. The other slightly notable thing in the February charts is the return of The Last of Us titles. The Last of Us Part 2 is at number 7, with sales more than double the month before. Meanwhile, The Last of Us Remastered is at number 14, with sales up over 50%. There is also an increase for The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, number 19. These jumps are from a relatively low base, so the overall sales figures are not particularly huge, but it shows that the games have benefited from the HBO series based on the IP, which started in January. There are no Nintendo games in the top 10 this month, although it's worth noting that Nintendo does not share digital data with the charts company. One of its big releases, Metroid Prime Remastered, which was surprise launched earlier in the month as a digital download, is therefore missing from the charts. Most indie games are also not included, and that's why recent hit survival game Sons of the Forest is also missing. February console sales are up 65% over the same month last year, and up 14% over January, to 143,000 hardware units sold. PS5 sales are up 316% over the same period the year before, and up 27% over January. Year-to-date, PS5 hardware is up 180% over the first 2 months of 2022. PS5 was severely impacted at the beginning of last year due to stock shortages. The Xbox Series S and X platforms saw sales increase 21% in February compared with January, and are 15% up over February last year. Year-to-date, the platform sales are down slightly by 5.3%. It's a tough start to the year for Nintendo Switch. Sales for February are down 15% compared with January, and down 29% over this time last year. Switch is now approaching its 6th anniversary, so it isn't a surprise to see the machine slow down. Last year also saw the notable release of Pokémon Legends Arceus towards the end of January. Nintendo is hoping to bolster hardware sales in the second quarter of the year, with the release of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, plus tie-in activity with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. GfK panel data shows that 511,680 add-on products were sold at UK retail during February, a drop of 17% over January and down 14.4% over February 2022. The chart is dominated by controllers, with the PS5 DualSense controlling the top 3 positions. The white variety is at number 1, the grey camo version is at number 2, and the midnight black version is at number 3. The carbon black Xbox controller is at number 4. The final week of the month also saw the DualSense Edge controller arrive at retailers, after a 4-week period via the PlayStation Store. It is the most expensive controller of all time with an average selling price of £208, GfK says. In terms of premium controllers that are £80 or more, it is the 4th biggest launch for these products, behind 3 Microsoft ones. The Elite Wireless Series 2, Black, the Elite Wireless, Black, and the Elite Wireless Series 2 Halo Infinite Edition. Hogwarts Legacy is doing crazy numbers with selling 12 million in just 2 weeks. What makes the numbers even more impressive is the lack of release on previous-gen consoles. Hogwarts Legacy's PS4 and Xbox One versions were recently delayed again to May 5th, so it'll be some time yet before previous-gen players get their hands on the game. When they do, those numbers will surely shoot up even further, with Elden Ring having the advantage of launching on both generations simultaneously. Many gamers have struggled to get their hands on the PS5 and Xbox Series X due to a lack of availability over the past few years. While it's becoming less of an issue as of late, it remains an important factor in the enduring popularity of the PS4. It remains to be seen how the success of Hogwarts Legacy affects the future of the series. Ultimately, the Harry Potter franchise will always guarantee a certain level of interest, but Hogwarts Legacy has particularly engaged audiences in a way that the recent Fantastic Beasts series struggled to achieve. It'll be some time before a potential Hogwarts Legacy sequel materializes, and for now players will have to hope that Avalanche Software is hard at work producing DLC for the game. No matter what happens, there's no doubt that audience appetite for more Wizarding World content is alive and well. The PlayStation 5 was the best-selling console in its home market of Japan last month, the first time Sony's current console has outsold the previously dominating Nintendo Switch in that market. According to Famitsu data, PS5 was February's best-selling hardware in the country, shifting 366,982 units. Nintendo Switch came in second at 221,041 units. PS5 sales are up 457% year-on-year in Japan for February, having sold 65,772 more units in February 2022. PS5 has enjoyed a strong start to 2023 in some regions, likely due to the much increased availability of the console, following years of stock shortages. Nintendo, however, sold the most games during the course of the month at 510,000 boxed units, outranking Square Enix's 162,000 and Warner Bros. Games' 127,000. While Nintendo Switch software still dominated Japan's software charts, with Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe topping the list with 189,031 units. The PlayStation 5 version of Hogwarts Legacy came in second at 126,086 units, following by Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, which sold a combined 107,506 units. Octopath Traveler 2 was the third biggest new release of the month and fifth biggest seller at 53,995 units. Sony has published the lists of most downloaded PlayStation Store games for February 2023, and Hogwarts Legacy was the top game on PlayStation 5. The game sold 12 million copies in its first 2 weeks and drove $850 million in revenue, making it one of the biggest game launches in recent times. Other top-performing PS5 titles for February included NBA 2K23, GTA 5, Madden NFL 23, FIFA 23, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. On PS4, The Last of Us Part 2 was the most downloaded game of February 2023, with the first part also surging on both PS5 and PS4, and its surge up the charts may be explained by the popularity of the HBO series. Moving to PlayStation VR 2, Kayak VR Mirage was the most downloaded game in February, which was the month that PlayStation VR 2 was released, with Horizon Call of the Mountain and Pavlov making it to the top. The NPD data for the US and Canada arrives on March 28, and I'll be covering those information also here. Ampere Analysis report notes that the PlayStation 5 reached an installed base of 32 million. Meanwhile, the lifetime sales of Xbox Series X and S units hit 18.5 million. By comparison, the Nintendo Switch, which launched more than 3 years earlier, ended last year with an installed base of 119.5 million. In the company's report, research director Piers Harding-Rolls said in part, while there were some great games in 2022 that sold very well, there were also delays to major games that impacted the chance for premium game sales. A mix of a post-pandemic shift in consumer attention and the cost of living squeeze contributed to in-game spending softening from its high in 2021 as mainstream users dialed down their outlay. In Ampere's assessment, Sony had the lion's share of the console market at 45%. Nintendo commanded 27.7%, while Microsoft controlled 27.3%. Although the number of users subscribing to console subscription services was down, the firm said spending on subscription services was up thanks to the multi-tiered strategies of Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Additionally, the report said console game sales numbers fell 7% compared to 2021, with in-game monetization and downloadable content spending down almost 15%. Ampere attributed this to more normal post-pandemic consumer behavior and the macroeconomic backdrop. Looking ahead, Ampere Analysis says that the sales gap between the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S consoles will grow in the first 6 months of 2023. It predicts that new Nintendo systems are poised to release near the end of 2024. A new report by Ampere Analysis estimates that spending on console games, hardware, and services declined in 2022, totaling $56.2 billion, a decrease of 7.8% year-on-year. Console game revenue was $32.6 billion, a drop of 9.3% year-on-year, and game services spending was $7.8 billion, an increase to 5.6% for the year 2022. Sony has been ordered to reveal a number of trade secrets to its largest rival as a direct result of its continued opposition to Microsoft's proposed takeover of Activision Blizzard. This is arguably the largest consequence of Sony's ongoing pushback against Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition to date. The Japanese gaming giant has been the largest opponent of the consolidation ever since Microsoft announced its provisional buyout agreement with the World of Warcraft maker in early 2022. Following a plethora of regulatory hearings the world over and even some memes throwing shade at Sony straight from Activision C-suite, Microsoft subpoenaed its rival in mid-January 2023, requesting access to years of sensitive company filings, including platform exclusivity deals and other trade secrets. The motion for disclosure was filed as part of a fact discovery stage in Microsoft's pending trial with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, who sued to block the Activision Blizzard purchase on antitrust grounds in December 2022. A newly surfaced administrative ruling revealed that Microsoft's subpoena has been granted as of late February, in spite of Sony's creative protests. As a result, the Xbox rival will have to provide Microsoft with exclusivity deals and 4 years' worth of other company records that the defense claims will help it make a case for why its proposed acquisition should go through. Microsoft initially requested all of Sony's exclusivity deals dating back 10 years, but the FTC limited the scope of the required disclosure to commitments signed since January 1, 2019 after the Japanese company argued it would have to manually sift through more than 150,000 contracts due to database limitations. Microsoft asked Sony for a copy of every content licensing agreement between PlayStation and any third-party publisher from January 1, 2012 onwards. Sony claimed this was of no value to the case. It added that Sony systems do not allow it to search contracts by company type, only by name, so this would mean searching over 150,000 contracts with around 60,000 companies. Those protests aside, the order was limited on account of relevancy, not technical shortcomings of Sony's bookkeeping methods. Namely, since the goal of the trial is to determine whether Microsoft's Activision Blizzard takeover would give Xbox too much power and lead to antitrust issues in the future, the administrative judge who signed the order decided that PlayStation exclusivity deals from a decade ago were not relevant to the case. The Redmond, Washington-based tech giant repeatedly said it's confident that the merger will go through come late spring 2023. Be that as it may, the market does not appear to share Microsoft's level of confidence in that turn of events, at least if Activision Blizzard's current market capitalization is any indication. Namely, the Call of Duty maker's stock traded in the $77 ballpark at the Nasdaq Stock Exchange throughout March 2, which is nearly 20% below Microsoft's all-cash offer of $95 per share, valued at approximately $69 billion. With the FTC trial not due to start until August 2, all attention around the Activision Blizzard acquisition is on the European Commission, which is due to make its decision on whether to approve the deal by April 25, and the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, whose decision is due by April 26. Sony is ready to enter the artificial intelligence (AI) assistant market, according to a new patent filed by the technology giant. While AI assistants have almost become synonymous with ChatGPT recently, Sony's new onboarding assistant won't follow the exact same model as the most famous invention of last year. The move is not surprising to anyone following technology news during the last year. In 2022, OpenAI exploded in popularity by launching two of the most popular AI programs ever, DALL-E and ChatGPT. While the first one helped users create images by using prompts, the groundbreaking chatbot could talk to users and generate text, and it has been used in several creative ways so far. ChatGPT has been very popular with several modding communities. For example, a Skyrim player used it to generate new quests for the title recently. Sony has recently filed a patent for a new AI onboarding assistant. According to the document, this new virtual assistant would be used on entertainment devices, such as video game consoles, and employ user data to give the user new recommendations. In short, the new bot would read the user data, learn from it and recommend products and features that they may like, not too unlike current algorithms. So, it's safe to believe that the new invention will work in a vastly different way than ChatGPT. This is not the first time that Sony's plans to use AI are discovered via patent filings. Last month, the company filed a patent for an AI device that would recommend music in games. While the project was not too clear on its possible uses, it could be used to play audio based on labeled information gathered by the company previously, individualizing the gamer's experience. By being a giant in both these fields, it's not too surprising that the Japanese company would like to mix these two areas. Chatbots are all over the news these days, as they have several uses that are slowly changing the world. Back in January, a US congressman used ChatGPT to write a speech, showing how quickly these technologies are developing. Sony's decision to try out new ways to use these machine learning-powered tools in its systems reflects this change in the market, and most technology companies are following this same strategy, as can be seen by Microsoft and Google. Sony has recently patented a system that aims to analyze a player's emotional state while playing games, with the purpose of seamlessly adjusting the virtual environment based on the player's emotional response. All this is done in order to improve the immersive experience of a game. The emotional state of a player can have a significant impact on their immersion in a video game. For example, it may be challenging for a player to focus on a video game and become fully involved in the virtual environment if they are feeling worried or stressed. If someone is playing a story-driven game while being sad or depressed, they may be more likely to empathize with a character's emotional struggles, which results in a higher level of immersion. On the other hand, if a gamer is playing a horror game while feeling afraid, they may perceive the game world as more dangerous and threatening, again increasing the level of immersiveness. Sony is planning to take advantage of players' emotions in order to bring something truly unique to the gaming world. Sony's patented system would use sensors designed to detect a player's physical movements and emotions while playing a video game in order to change the virtual environment in accordance with the gamer's reactions. The sensors would also record a player's facial expressions and bodily functions, such as sweating, heart rate, or blood pressure. In addition, a microphone would be used to capture a person's exclamations or heavy breathing, a feature similar to that already exists and is used in horror games such as Phasmophobia. All the captured data would go into a data processing circuit, then be transmitted inside the actual gaming system. The circuit could have a program built in that would search through the pre-programmed emotions to try to match what the player is feeling, and consequently affect the game world. The system would also impact the NPCs that the players interacts with in a game. For instance, if an NPC detects a calm emotion, it will act nicer to the player. One other interesting feature of the system would be the addition of adaptive difficulty. If a gamer gets frustrated and angry, the virtual environment of the game could change in order to make the experience more enjoyable for its player and decrease the difficulty of a level. Sony's concept is undoubtedly a challenge to implement, however, if properly designed, the patented system would be an absolute game changer. By adapting to the player's emotional state, a game could create a much more immersive experience that feels tailored to the player and make them feel more connected to the game world and its characters. Sony only has a relatively small portion left in its announced acquisition budget, which is supposed to last until 2024. In May 2021, the Japanese company announced that it had earmarked the equivalent of approximately $18.39 billion for strategic investments across the entire company. This included Sony's potential acquisition of development studios and a push to grow the subscriber count for PlayStation Plus. In that vein, many will remember that this led to a number of significant game studio acquisitions by Sony in 2021, including Returnal developer Housemarque, Bluepoint Games, the studio that provided the well-received remakes of Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus, as well as the lesser-known Firesprite, Nix's Software, and Valkyrie Entertainment. 2022 followed with a few more developers being added to the PlayStation umbrella like Jade Raymond's Haven Studios and, most notably, Bungie for $3.7 billion. In the company's recent Morgan Stanley web conference, it was revealed that Sony has only $5 billion remaining of that original $18 billion budget allotment. This money is intended to fuel investments and acquisitions up to 2024, after which it's assumed that more funds will be allocated. However, this $5 billion number is noteworthy because it effectively puts to rest a number of rumors that have been circulating about Sony acquiring various game studios. There have been several substantial acquisitions rumored to be taking place, particularly over the last year or so. This seems in part to be fueled by the ongoing controversy about Microsoft's pending acquisition of Activision Blizzard. At any given moment, Sony has supposedly been in the process of buying out Square Enix or even Take-Two Interactive. Put the numbers into perspective, as of March 2023, Square Enix has a market value of $5.57 billion and Take-Two Interactive has a fluctuating value that sits at around $20 billion. Of the most prominent studios Sony has allegedly been eyeballing, only CD Projekt Red fall below or on that $5 billion budget. So if the Japanese company really is focused on obtaining any of those bigger developers, it likely won't be happening anytime soon. However, it also means that the door isn't closed for the announcement of another, smaller studio acquisition before year-end. The numbers also drive home the huge difference between Microsoft's and Sony's gaming acquisition budgets. In 2021, Microsoft grabbed ZeniMax Media and its notable studios like Bethesda for $7.5 billion. That seemed a jaw-dropping number until, less than a year later, Microsoft announced its $68.7 billion acquisition deal with Activision Blizzard. Sony and Microsoft approach acquisitions and exclusivity slightly differently. While the Xbox company currently seems focused on acquiring parent companies and all of their Golden Goose subsidiaries, PlayStation remains intent on maintaining exclusivity of blockbuster franchises that hopefully make its ecosystem the more enticing one, making organic studio growth and acquisitions, and could be going for Ember Labs, Slocklap, or smaller indie studios. PS5 just released its new update, which will add several and highly requested features such as Discord chat. This update, however, offers way more than just that, providing a hefty firmware overhaul for PS5 users with many features players will find useful. This firmware update has been in beta for over a month now, as PS5 added the Discord voice chat feature at the beginning of February to see how it fares with players. To some extent, the way Sony integrated Discord has been a slight disappointment for gamers, as most hoped for complete integration, whereas this merge is only limited to the voice chat feature. However, this can be deemed as only the beginning of a relationship between Discord and PS5. If the voice chat is a success with users, and considering its current release from beta, then maybe more features will be added to the Discord experience later down the line. In order to add this feature to the PS5, a user needs to link their PSN account to their Discord account, and then start the voice chat over on Discord. Once that's done, the player can join the voice chat through their PS5 and hang out with their friends, regardless of if they have a PS5 or not. For those who previously linked their accounts with PS5 to display the game they're currently playing, it's useful to note they need to link the accounts again for the Discord feature to work. However, this is not the only addition the update comes with. Those with a 1440p display can now enable VRR for smoother visuals, and there are also software updates for the DualSense Edge, and PSVR 2Sense controllers. Game hubs now also offer more information for players, such as showing the game's overall progress percentage, time played, and a new tile under the name Friends Who Play. This will let a player see all their friends who have the same game, and also whether they're online currently. There have been various other smaller social updates added, as well as game library enhancements. When it comes to capturing a player's gaming experience, users can now manually upload screenshots and clips from their PS5 to the PS app. Gamers in the US and UK areas also get an update which adds the voice command to capture video clips. This substantial 1.1 GB update brings several useful additions to the PS5 experience, allowing for smoother gaming. As for the Discord integration, there will no doubt be many gamers who'll be waiting to see if more features will be added later down the line. Currently, voice command, preview, is only available in English for players with accounts for PlayStation Network in the US and UK. Voice command now supports using your voice to save video clips of your gameplay. Say, "Hey PlayStation, capture that," to save a video clip of your recent gameplay. The default duration saved is based on your settings. You can also save a specific duration of your gameplay, from 15 seconds to 60 minutes. For example, to save 5 minutes, say, "Hey PlayStation, capture the last 5 minutes." Say, "Hey PlayStation, start recording," to manually start a new gameplay recording. You can then say, "Hey PlayStation, stop recording," to end the recording and save the video clip. You can now update the DualSense wireless controller device software with a wireless connection. If you have trouble updating the device software wirelessly, connect your controller to your PS5 using the USB cable to update it. You'll be able to update wirelessly for the next update. DualSense Edge wireless controller and PlayStation VR 2Sense controllers already support wireless updates for the device software. This update isn't required for performing wireless updates for these controllers. Speaking of Discord, soon, Discord users are going to notice some new moderation and community engagement tools will be at their disposal, as ChatGPT will be integrated into the program on an experimental basis. News came in the middle of a busy week for Discord, which saw some long-awaited integration with PS5 after months of speculation and rumors. A few months ago, Microsoft made a major, $10 billion investment in OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. While controversial, ChatGPT has been used by people for different purposes, from asking it simple questions to making search requests, and even as a way to create content. As Microsoft prepares to integrate ChatGPT into Windows 11 in future updates, gamers will soon have the opportunity to test the waters and see if the AI-powered tool will work for them. Soon, the experimental phase will start for a limited number of servers and users. Short for a generative pre-trained transformer language model, ChatGPT may seem daunting to understand at first. But with Discord, the OpenAI integration will allow the program's Clyde AI to be used to allow users to search for images and GIFs or recommend a playlist for users. This is done by sending a message to Clyde in a server, provided the server's owner or moderators have created a chat room or granted permission for specific users to utilize it. The integration will also grant Discord moderators and server owners more tools to enhance the program's AutoMod AI. While false positives can still occur, the AI is capable of learning and adapting to the context of each individual conversation and moderating accordingly. In addition, the AI enhancements can provide a condensed summary of a past conversation, with context and messages taken into account. But for users interested in how Discord can help create or search for new images, the OpenAI integration will also include a whiteboard that allows users to doodle on a digital canvas and allow the AI to generate an image of a common item, such as flowers or vehicles. This imaging process can also extend to Discord avatars, which can then be remixed to change items such as hats or wallpapers in the background. That said, Discord's terms of service and developer policy will apply to the application of this tool, so users and developers will have to bear that in mind. Though skeptics and critics of OpenAI and AI-assisted tools may still remain wary of how the technology can be used, especially considering Microsoft's investment in OpenAI on top of its ongoing acquisition of Activision Blizzard, it will be up to users to decide whether such integrations are worth using. Only time will tell where the AI-assisted integrations will go as far as Discord is concerned, and when they will see full use. A new month means a new batch of free games for PlayStation Plus subscribers to claim for their digital libraries, with Battlefield 2042, Code Vein, and Minecraft Dungeons available now. Sony has firmly established certain patterns when it comes to the PlayStation Plus games every month, but it broke away from some of those traditions when it came to the free PS Plus games for March 2023. While Sony typically announces the next batch of free PS Plus games on the last Wednesday of every month, it broke from that pattern with the free PS Plus games for March 2023 announcement. It instead decided to reveal them as part of its latest PlayStation State of Play presentation, letting the cat out of the bag early and confirming the 3 titles subscribers would be able to claim for the month of March. As previously stated, anyone signed up for PS Plus Essential, the cheapest and most basic tier of the service, can claim Battlefield 2042, Code Vein, and Minecraft Dungeons starting now. Battlefield 2042 has both native PS4 and PS5 versions to choose from, while only PS4 versions of Code Vein and Minecraft Dungeons exist, though the games are readily playable on PS5 thanks to the console's backward compatibility. While the free PS Plus games for March 2023 are available now, those signed up for the pricier tiers may be wondering when their next batch of games will be available. Unfortunately, Sony has not confirmed a specific date for the PS Plus Extra and Premium games for March 2023, but it has revealed some of the titles that subscribers can look forward to when the games are added a little later this month. It's been confirmed that Ghostwire Tokyo, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Rainbow Six Extraction, Tkaya, and Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection are all coming to PS Plus Extra and Premium in March 2023. It's quite likely that there will be some PS1 classics added to the premium lineup as well, but if so, they have yet to be announced. Out of these, perhaps the most interesting is Tkaya. Tkaya is a rare Day 1 release for the PS Plus Extra and Premium tiers, giving subscribers the chance to try it out the very day it launches on March 21st. It's possible March 21st will be the date that the other PS Plus Extra and Premium games are added as well, but that has yet to be clarified. And that's all for the video guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.